Next, on a very special episode of Seinfeld, Kramer becomes an inventor. Elaine tries to kill a cat. George becomes George with one moment. And Jerry goes to the dry cleaners? Sounds like quite a special episode. Coming up next on Seinfeld. Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Harry, back for the end of the first season. Can you imagine that we made it all this way? Or is this just a reminder that the first season of Seinfeld only lasted 5 episodes, the pilot, and then had a 4-episode order after that. So not a very long first season, but hey, we made it. This is Harry Chronicles Seinfeld. I'm Harry Lipsy, and let's take a look at episode 5 of the first season. It's the stock tip. To me, the stock tip shows some continued growth in the show. There's some, I think, things they're really building on. The characters are growing at a point, and it's enjoyable to watch. There's some really good jokes. There's some things that happen in this episode that kind of began in the stock tip and become really, really important factors of the show. And to me, it starts off right at the beginning with George and Jerry at the coffee shop talking about Superman. I mean, how many times has this happened in the show? So this was really a historic episode in a lot of ways. I thought that bit was really funny. Usually the Superman stuff doesn't exactly do it for me, but there was something about just the way that George was persistent that there was no way that Superman would be funny. And you know, Jerry is, well, he has super strength. He has super speed. Why doesn't he have super humor? He's funny. He's got to be funny. Sorry, I do a really, really bad Seinfeld, but you get the point. But it was the dialogue, and it could have been straight out of season 5 or 6 or 7, so it was really fun to watch that conversation so early in the series. So I really enjoyed that. Not everything was a complete home run in this episode. It wasn't one of the great episodes. There was not really, again, no memorable moments, but it's a really solid show. There's one specific kind of joke that Jerry does in the coffee shop, and it's about grapes. And it's, to me, one of the worst jokes I've ever seen on Seinfeld. I mean, it didn't go anywhere, and he's really trying to make it work, and he's talking to Elaine about grapes, and it was a complete fall. I mean, I haven't seen an episode like that, or a joke like that fall on its face like that joke did, and it was early in the episode. The storyline of the stock tip is that... well, first of all, George gets a stock tip from someone about a certain company to invest in, and he gets Jerry to invest with him. So Jerry invests $2,500. In the meantime, Jerry continues to go out with a girl named Vanessa. He decides it's kind of time to take that second level, so he invites her to Vermont, to a place that Elaine suggests that they go. And it's kind of a, kind of a lodge, but there's not a whole lot of luxury or anything like that. So Elaine thought it would be a good opportunity or a good place for Jerry to kind of take their relationship to the next level, because there's not much to do. So, there's opportunity to do a lot. But, other than that, that's all this episode really has going on. Elaine is dating in a very small side story. At this point, again, there's not really, these characters aren't that developed, so we don't have those big side stories with George or Elaine or Kramer. Elaine's story is she's dating a guy with 2 cats. And one of my favorite lines of the episode was from George, and he just said, "Guys with cats, I don't know about that. I just don't know." And I thought it was a really cool George line. I really enjoyed that. And so she... again, this is a very small side story. It just doesn't really go anywhere. Basically, he chooses the cats over her because she's very allergic to cats. And she asks kind of, hey, it's going to be me or the cats? And he chooses the cats. So, yeah, maybe the right decision. I will say, again, Kramer has no story whatsoever. He just shows up at the apartment every once in a while. Interesting kind of characterization between Jerry and Kramer when the stock starts going down, and Jerry is talking to George, and he's looking. For some reason, Kramer's really excited about Jerry's lack of success with the stock, with the lack of making money. And when it's going down, Kramer just has this huge smile on his face. And the banter between Jerry and Kramer is just classic. And we never really find out truly why Kramer wanted Jerry's stock to fall flat on his face or him to get out of it, other than he has this great idea for a roll-out tie dispenser. That if you're out in a restaurant, you spill on your tie, you just press a button and all of a sudden a new tie you take the old tie off and the new tie will show up. So maybe, who knows? It seems like maybe Seinfeld missed an opportunity. I really enjoy the kind of new inventions that Kramer rolls out. The character still isn't as zany as the Kramer we know, but he didn't try the invention thing very long in the series, and I think it would have been an interesting angle for him to keep coming up with these different, really bad, I don't know, bad, but just weird, zany, out of this world inventions, and I thought that was kind of funny. A couple scenes that really, really worked. There's a scene where Jerry, for whatever reason, I still think in real life he hates dry cleaners. He has a really funny bit with the dry cleaner. And the guy, who actually kind of reminds me of a foreign Kramer, admits to him that he shrunk Jerry's shirt. But it's some good dialogue. Again, it really is shown from episode 1 to episode 5. There's some development. They're learning that it needs to be funny, that it needs to be quick. So I enjoyed that part of it. The other story I really enjoyed is Jerry and Vanessa go to Vermont, and all of a sudden they're just yin and yang. You can just tell that this is not a couple, and she's not excited to go to Vermont anyway because, it's Vermont. But it's just there's some really interesting conversations there. I mean, she won't even let him tell him what kind of perfume she's wearing. So I always thought it was funny when the characters, when their girlfriend or boyfriend, in Elaine's case, or Jerry or George's girlfriend specifically, when there's a yin and yang. They're obviously not, and that's why I like Susan so much for George. I found it so interesting when Seinfeld characters met a girlfriend or a boyfriend that they just, that they didn't necessarily hit it off with, but they were trying to make it work, and it just made for some fun lines. And there's some give and take, which I really enjoyed between Vanessa and Jerry. But yeah, so that was kind of it. That's the story. At the very end of the episode, George hangs on to the stock and it ends up making tons of money. Jerry throws the stock back and gets his money back, or gets what he has left. And just seeing George being successful and having something really, really good happen to him, it's always funny, and that carries on the rest of the show. And to me, there's a scene that makes George George. I mean, it's the first time you can watch and say, hey, that's George Costanza. Was when he gave the waitress, he just made all this money, $8,000, and he's handing this money to this waitress, and he hands the money, he takes a look, and he grabs the check from her one more time, takes a look, and he takes like 3 or 4 of the dollars that he'd given her for a tip. And to me, it's like, okay, that's George. Because in those first couple episodes, I thought he was too nice. He was too successful. He was too smart. Now we're finally seeing that egotistical guy that we know and love. So I enjoyed the stock tip. I think it's a step forward. I think it's going to develop, it's going to set the show up for a really successful season 2. Season 2 has some great moments in Seinfeld history, and, the Chinese restaurant's definitely up there for me, one of my favorite episodes. So I think it's a strong end to season 1. Still probably not my favorite episode. I love the robbery. We talked about that earlier. I really enjoyed that episode. But if you haven't seen the stock tip, check it out. To me, the top moments are, I do like the Superman bit. The Kramer's funny, just finding joy in Jerry's unfortunate stock career, and then also his kind of invention is pretty funny. And then seeing George at the end kind of take that money back is also, I get a pretty big kick out of that. So there's a lot of positives, a lot of fun things to take away from this episode, and excited to move forward to season 2 of Harry Chronicles Seinfeld. So thanks so much for joining me again. Hope you're not hating it too much. I enjoy bringing it to you. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. So thanks so much for joining me, and have a good day.